as the game of the week. And we're only going to talk about one game in depth this week from the NFL. And that's for the sake of time, but also because this was the game of the week as the Lions beat the Vikings 31-9 on Sunday Night Football. And before we get into the actual recap of the game, I just wanted to put something up on the screen. And for the audio only listeners, this is why you need to tune in on Instagram, on YouTube, or on Twitch. So then you can see things like this. But what I'm displaying on the screen right now is a poll from my Instagram. And this poll was before the game started. People started to trickle in their votes a little bit more after the result was already finished, which skewed it. But as you can see from the screen, I had 28 people vote, and I appreciate those of you who did. And 75% of the audience said that they thought the Detroit Lions would win. But when it comes to the stats over politics picks, it was the exact opposite, as 75% of the panel picked the Minnesota Vikings. The 25% is your boy, as I went with the Detroit Lions. To me, the Lions have been the best team in the NFL all season. And despite everyone thinking that the Vikings were going to catch them slipping, despite all the injuries that the Lions have gone through, the Lions, they have been nearly unstoppable. And so until someone who's formidable actually does get in their way, I'm going to continue to roll with the Lions, and that's why I went with them in this game. But Kaz, why did you go with the Vikings, and what was your overall thoughts about this primetime matchup? It was the first time that we ever had two 14-win teams going at it.
Yeah, I was gambling for the most part on it. Like, not like literally, but like just, I'm like, I just believe in Justin Jefferson. I think that he's going against a beat up Lions defense, and I understand like not necessarily their secondary, but just all around their defense is beat up. So I'm like, this is going to open up a lot of opportunities for him. I know Aaron Jones had a solid game. I kind of foresaw that coming as well, and I was just like, as long as Sam Darnold has time, he has weapons everywhere. There should be a lot of openings when it comes to that Vikings offense against this Detroit Lions defense. The Detroit Lions defense they played a lot of teams. They beat a lot of teams by a lot of points, but at the same time, they've also had a lot of games where they needed to score a lot of points to win. And that you do not ever want to be in that position. That could lead to your demise, which I kind of have. That's why I don't have the Lions make it to the Super Bowl this year. I think that at some point they're going to have to play from behind, and it's not going to work out in their favor. And I just felt like the Vikings were going to just kind of do what I know they can do, but the problem is I think that when the lights are on, the Vikings don't show up. Like, they get a little too bright for them. Perfect opportunity to go out there and really prove it to the Detroit Lions. And what do they do? Stale on offense. I can understand why the Lions are stale on offense. Why? Because the Lions offense is everything. That's when you're scouting that kind of team, you're probably doing everything in your power to cover, obviously, Jameson Williams, who actually not many people really realize this. He was within 200 yards of Amon-Ra St. Brown with receiving yards this year. He had a crazy year. He was just shy of 1,000 yards. James Williams, Amon-Ra St. Brown, obviously, all reliable. Then you got Jahmyr Gibbs, who's pretty much unstoppable. One of the best things that happened, damn near, bless him, but David Montgomery going down just opened up a massive window for Jahmyr Gibbs. The Vikings has a defense that could fare with the Lions offense, and they showed it until the very end of the game. And that just comes to show that you get all these opportunities. You saw Justin Jefferson upset after the game, talking about not getting any penalties and things like that. Those things do factor in, but you got to understand, you guys held the Detroit Lions to, what was it? Detroit scored 17 points in 3 quarters. That's not what they do. They put up 17 points in a quarter sometimes. You know what I mean? So they're known to put up a lot of points very, very quickly. It took until that last quarter for Jahmyr Gibbs to just let loose again and then seal the deal. But for you to score 9 points, I mean, again, you got Justin Jefferson, you got Jordan Addison, Aaron Jones. He may not be the best back in the league, but he's very serviceable. And then you got T.J. Hawkinson, who, even though he's coming off an injury, he still is. He's healthy. He's a guy. I hate to do it, but I have to put a lot of blame on Sam Darnold. I think that, again, I think the brights were a little bit too light, and this is why guys like that maybe weren't as successful as we thought they'd be coming out of college. Now, I'm not trying to knock Sam Darnold entirely, saying well, he hasn't played well all year. He has. He's played well all year. That's why the Vikings only had 2 losses for the longest time. But at the end of the day, the big games matter the most. This is why, as an Eagles fan, I don't really speak much when we have stupid losses or, we have like playoff games. I'm very comfortable. And it's because I know my team's capable. I've already seen this before. Like, I know what happens to teams that show up in the playoffs. And, like for instance, like Jaden Daniels, it's like CJ Stroud. It's like, we've seen it, man. And we haven't seen it from Daniels yet, but we see it. These guys have these tremendous seasons, these tremendous rookie years. And I think the same thing's going to happen to the Commanders. Maybe not round 1 because they don't have a hard matchup. But, like, at the end of the day, I think the same thing is still going to happen. Like, at some point, you're going to see all of a sudden what they've done all season long get exposed. Teams like the Eagles or teams like the Lions or, the Chiefs, obviously, you don't need to really see them prove it to you in the playoffs. You know what kind of team you're going to get in the playoffs. So, yeah, I'm just not really – I'm more disappointed in Sam Darnold and his inability to find guys who I know are open, like Jordan Addison and Justin Jefferson. These guys are open. Even when they're not open, they're open. What's going on? So at the end of the day, you just cannot put up 9 points on the board against a team that averages probably the most in the NFL this season.
Yeah, I think the real sign that things weren't going to go the Vikings' way was, I believe it was in the second quarter. They had 7 straight plays in the red zone because they had the 4 and then turnover on downs in the red zone. And then they got a turnover, got it right back. And then they had 3 plays that were unsuccessful. Keep targeting Justin Jefferson. It didn't work out. After they turned the ball over on downs, they said, okay, let's take the points. They take the 3, but still, to have 7 straight plays in the red zone and 7 straight plays within 10 yards and to end up with 3 points, that's just unacceptable in a game like this. And I just want to give a shout out to Amik Robertson because for whatever putting the clamps on Justin Jefferson looks like, Amik Robertson did that in this game. And I even wanted to highlight this tweet from Nolan Bianchi, who's a Lions beat writer for the Detroit News. Amik Robertson said that Justin Jefferson told him, good game, after scoring on him in Minnesota in week 7. After this game, he just walked off the field, Robertson said. And then Robertson said it rubbed him the wrong way. And I'm just saying, Justin Jefferson, if you're the best wide receiver in the NFL, then you got to be able to take the humble pie too and show some respect, just as plenty of others show him respect. And Jaevon, Podfather, before we get your analysis on this game, I wanted to highlight Jahmyr Gibbs' stats that Kaz was alluding to in depth, as he had 4 total touchdowns in this game, 23 carries for 139 yards, which is an average of 6 yards per carry, 3 touchdowns, and then he had 5 catches for 31 yards and a touchdown. As Kaz said, Knuckles has really been unlocked since Sonic, a.k.a. David Montgomery, went out to injury. But Jaevon, you also –
Opposite.
Oh,
Montgomery's Knuckles. Sonic is Gibbs.
Thought I had it too. I said it with the utmost confidence, but thank you for correcting me. Jaevon, you also picked the Vikings in this game. So why was that the case? And what did you think of the game overall?
I just thought the Vikings defense was better, more equipped. They forced a lot of turnovers. The reason why I say that is because every time you turn on the TV, their defense is celebrating. And you can watch out throughout the weeks. They always post the behind the scenes of the celebration. And I've seen that for like the past 3-4 weeks now. So, I mean, Minnesota is able to turn the ball over. They're in the red zone several times. Sam Darnold is unable to. They only get 9 points in the red zone. They were in the red zone, I believe, like 3 times, like before the half was over. And those were just gimmies. I mean, those are gotta-have-it throws. I think Darnold airmailed Jettas on a couple of red zone throws that they ended up having to kick field goals on. One of the times they tried to go for it didn't come up. They came up short, so – the Vikings definitely had opportunities in this game. I think this was obviously the Jahmyr Gibbs game. A lot of people were questioning whether or why Jahmyr Gibbs wasn't getting enough playing time. And this was last year. They're like, oh, goddamn Montgomery, he's getting all the carries. Well, this guy right here accounted for 20 total touchdowns throughout the entire season. And last year, once upon a time when Christian McCaffrey, who was the offensive player of the year last year, had 21 total touchdowns. people were saying he was the best thing since sliced bread. A year later, Jahmyr Gibbs does virtually the same exact thing, and it's crickets. Maybe it's because he splits carries with David Montgomery. I guess so. But I mean, Jahmyr Gibbs is the real deal. I think he can be an any down back. Has proven that he can run between the tackles. This Lions team is very scary, and as of last night, the road goes through Detroit. So I mean, this guy up here with the Eagles background, he's got to go through the D. So I don't know if he's scared of that or if he's got to go on the road at some point in time.
He ain't talking Dallas.
We have seen how this defense has been. I mean, the Niners kind of, I wouldn't say sliced through like butter, but we averaged like 7 yards per play when we played against them once upon a time on Monday Night Football last week, and we are a 6-11 team. So I'm just saying, what's going to happen when a real team the Vikings are obviously a real team, but I mean, you get a team like the Eagles, the Packers, teams with more potent offenses that are going to have to go up to Detroit. Aaron Glenn's going to have those boys ready to go. Now, is the injuries did play? They do get the first round bye, so I don't know how much of a difference that's going to make for how healthy they can get in that week or so. But I once upon a time do recall Aiden Hutchinson saying, "Hey, I'll be back for the Super Bowl." Now, Super Bowl is light years away at this point. Obviously, it's a month away, but at the same time, the Lions are going to win 2 games. That's what they're looking at it like. Hey, win the divisional round, win the NFC Championship game. We just got to win 2 games. 2 home games at that. And we're going to go on and we get to go to the Super Bowl. So, hats off to Dan Campbell and the Lions. I believe this is the second year in a row they won the division. I think this is the first time they've ever, or I don't know, it may be in franchise history that they've ever had a number 1 seed. So,
Yep.
And then just going to the Vikings side, is this foreshadowing what Sam Darnold is supposed to look like? Now, I have said in the past, hey guys, just wait, hold on. Sam Darnold, he's going to turn into a pumpkin. Now, he has played himself into a $40 to $50 million type of price range. However, Kevin is notoriously known for saying this on the podcast. So what have you done for me lately, league? Last thing we saw Sam Darnold do is airmail a couple balls in the red zone and put up 9 points. If he goes on the road, now this is a team they lost to earlier in the season. This is one of their 2 losses, or 3 losses, I should say now. One of their 3 losses was to the Rams. That was on Thursday Night Football. If Sam Darnold goes into LA and they shit the bed and he looks like crap, what do the Vikings do? Do they say, hey, we got a young guy who we drafted as, 11th overall, we pivot to him? Or do we say, hey, man, those are just 2 games those are just 3 games that we saw, 4 games, however many games that they'll end up losing. And we'll just roll with Sam Darnold. I feel like Sam Darnold has to play well in this game for him to, he's kind of playing for his job in a sense. Because I feel like if he goes out there against the Rams and looks like the Sam Darnold that we've been accustomed to seeing the past couple of years, the Vikings are going to, that $40, $50 million contract is going to go up in smoke and it's going to evaporate. Now, there still might be some suitors out there for him. Be like, hey, saw what he was able to do. It's way better than we got. There's a bunch of teams that would probably still line up for Sam Darnold. I'm just saying for the Vikings moving forward, they do have a time clock with JJ McCarthy. He's already his window. It's gonna come out. It's gonna dwindle fast. And we see with these rookie quarterbacks like Caleb, we're gonna see even with Jaden Daniels, Bo Nix, all those guys, they're gonna try and want to build around this guy, those types of guys for the future. And even hell with CJ Stroud. You see what they did in the offseason. They went and got, Danielle Hunter. They got Stephon Diggs. They threw the kitchen sink in the off season to try and sign whoever that they could so they can build a Super Bowl type roster, because they know when it's all said and done, CJ Stroud is going to be accounting for, however much percent of the cap. And who knows what it'll be by then when it's time for him to get paid $56 million. We're seeing Dak Prescott's getting paid $60 million. And we've seen what he's been able to do. So a lot's kind of at stake for the Vikings moving forward. This is an embarrassing loss. And then I also saw something about Kevin O'Connor or O'Connell. Something about him being traded, which is kind of crazy. Like, why would this story come out right before one of the biggest games of the year? You're fighting for the number 1 seed. There's a whole bunch of stuff at stake, and then all of a sudden, oh yeah, by the way, our coach is in the last year of his contract, and we might trade him. Like, what are we doing? So, lots at stake for the Vikings moving forward, and the Lions kind of got their feet up a little bit, and they're kind of just waiting to see who they play in the next round. And so the Lions will play the worst seed, basically, if I'm not mistaken. Mm-hmm. So let's say if the Packers beat the Eagles, they'll probably play the Packers. Or I think it'll probably be the winner of that Commanders Bucks.
Commanders and Buccaneers, yeah.
Yeah, it'd be
that's the what's that 3? That's a 3 and a 6 seed. And then
I think that might be
4 and 5.
4 or 5.
5 is Rams and
Vikings.
No, Vikings.
Yeah,
because now they're
Rams, Vikings. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes. So. In LA.
I'm excited.
Well, speaking of that Rams Vikings game, Dan Campbell, not Dan Patrick, former ESPN host, but Dan Campbell said to Kevin O'Connell after the game, "We'll see you in 2 weeks." Basically, oh yeah, go beat the brakes off of the Rams, and that's assuming that the Eagles win. That's assuming that the Buccaneers win, and so that's the real question mark there. And Kaz, I wanted to respond to one thing that you said earlier in regard to the Lions having to play from behind. We just saw that happen last week. They were behind the 49ers throughout the entire first half, and then they made a statement in that third quarter, and they came out as a different team. Yes, it's the 49ers. They're not that great this year. But the 49ers looked extremely formidable in that first half, and the Lions made adjustments at halftime, and then it was over. I mean, Fred Warner, I sent Jaevon this clip on Instagram. Fred Warner was going crazy, hyping up his teammates in the pregame huddle, and it was looking good at halftime. And then the third quarter came, and it was like, all right, yeah, back to reality. And Amon-Ra St. Brown was beating the shit out of the camera. And yeah. But
I don't believe. Yeah, I just personally against looking at the teams out there right now that are actually legitimately good this season. I'm like, get a 14-point lead on the Detroit Lions in the middle of the game. I think that I give a lot of teams credit, especially like the Eagles. I mean, most of our team loves Saquon, but our defense is playing nasty. So it's like I want to see you do that against this defense. You got guys like Chauncey who I think has 6 picks on a year or something like that, like silently. You got obviously Jalen Carter who's going to bring constant pressure to your quarterback. And Goff is not the best under pressure. He's not a guy who's going to get out of the pocket easily against a fast defense and things like that. You look at like Washington as well. You're going to really just try to come back and win against Jaden Daniels who's hot, who puts up 4 or 5 touchdowns in the game, things like that. It's like I just can't foresee Detroit playing teams like Washington, playing teams like Philadelphia, or hell, even the Rams when the Rams are on. When the Rams are on, when Puka's on and Kyron's on and Cooper Kupp's doing what he does, and Stafford's playing like Matthews, the Stafford we all know, I'm like, that's how you beat the Lions. I mean, you're not going to beat them in a dogfight. I think you got to get ahead and stay ahead personally. So, I mean, shout out to the Niners. You did make a good point. And by the way, shout out to Brock Purdy. I was down 50 points in the championship game head again. I had Brock Purdy and I had Amon-Ra St. Brown, and I won by 3 points. That's all I'm going to say.
Like 377, 3 times.
Yeah, I had like a 2% chance of winning. But yeah, so I ended up winning. Yep. I'll show you guys later on at some point. But anyways, yeah, it's just like, unfortunately, the Niners just aren't a great team right now. Even with you guys having a great first half or pretty much full. I ain't gonna lie, you guys had a good game, obviously against the Detroit Lions.
Yeah, the Lions are.
I would not put you guys in the same category as any of these teams in NFC right now. Maybe LA right now. And you guys have had obviously your run-ins with them already. So I think every team right now in the NFC playoffs is a team that's probably well-rounded, all around better than San Fran. Nothing to get you guys that game. Not a good season for you guys, but I don't foresee Detroit. If Detroit can play from behind, being down, even we'll say 13, screw 14 points, 2 touchdowns, 13 points, give or take. And it's against any team that's in the NFC right now, besides maybe the Packers, just because they're going to, I don't really know how they're going to fare on what Jordan Love's going to show up. But all these other quarterbacks have proven it. And then we have the best running back in the league on our team. It's like, watch out, because that score can easily go from 13 to 20, 21, like real quick. All it takes is one turnover, because these teams that are in the NFC right now can score. Like the Detroit can score, don't get me wrong, but like it ain't just Detroit put up points and handling teams. It's nope. We've seen Jaden do it, like I said, at Washington. You obviously know the Eagles with Saquon and the guys who don't even really have to even do much because we have Saquon. You see what they do, and like I said, LA, we know for a fact once they get on and Stafford's on, it can be a crazy game. So I'm being optimistic, I'll say. I'll be realistic. Yes, Detroit definitely can do it, but I want to see it against a formidable opponent, like a legit one.